Speaker, for acknowledging my expertise on this area as a representative of probably the biggest chunk of Lake Victoria, which is the third largest freshwater lake in the world and the largest in Africa. Mr. Speaker, I was actually wondering when this bill was brought into Parliament, because in my lifetime in Parliament, we actually did a very comprehensive fisheries management and development bill, but I want to thank the seconder for explaining that actually there's a court matter that ensured that this bill is brought back. And when I was looking at the bill, because I contributed very largely on it, I discovered a lot of the issues that were there then are still here. However, I've made some notable issues. One on the issue of fish for sex for women, which is exploitation. It's not provided very strongly, and there are some minor amendments that I'll be proposing. However, I just want to indicate some of the things that I'll be proposing, but I just want to indicate that fish has a lot of potential for changing the economy of this country. And we actually, if we invest very heavily in blue economy, then even for the young people who don't have jobs can get opportunities. But we need to have a mindset change, a paradigm shift, because most people think fishing is ignoble. But fishing actually has a lot of potential. When many times when my mother was not able to get my school fees, I would go to my uncle who was a fisherman, and he would give me fee. So I'm also a product of fishing. My mother had 8 children, and she was a widow. And many times, other than bursary that would support us, many times she was not able to support us. So that is why I'm very passionate about issues to do with fishing, because it supported not only me, but even part of families, members of my family. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that because of the open access nature of fishing, it is very different from other sorts of businesses that people get in. You can't walk into anybody's land and just start digging. But when you go into fish or start farming, but the open access of fishing, especially the lake, as a natural resource, means I can come from Busia, and one day I'm just fishing in Kiumba Beach in Rusinga Island. It has come with a lot of problems, and I am sorry to say that I'm not seeing this bill addressing some of those issues that have arisen because of the open nature. We also propose other things, like in the last bill, I proposed exit to in-situ fishing, which includes now the cage fishing and the farm aquaculture. But they have also come with issues. And Mr. Speaker, one of the issues it has come with is when we are proposing in-situ fishing or cage fishing, the presumption was that we would up the standards of our local people. But what is happening? It is actually industrial entities, many from out of the country, that have covered the entire Lake Victoria. Now, if you are going around my constituency, I have to find ways. I had Honorable Nyekal talking about it. You have to find ways where you are navigating. There is no rule, there is no law, there is no regulation about what about artisanal fishers. How will they, how much space is there? Mr. Speaker, sometimes I'm here and I'm called. People are fighting in the lake. And lake fights are worse than shore fights because they will drown. And people do drown. Sometimes you actually give them under CDF. CDF in my constituency gives them security boats that they use for surveillance. And sometimes during the fights, the boats are destroyed because the fights get completely violent. Some of the issues, Mr. Speaker, that I want to say very quickly, number one is declining fish stock, because we've always presumed that fish is an infinite stock. It no longer is an infinite stock. There is declining fish stock, there is overfishing, there is population growth, we didn't factor in that. There's unemployment, so that people who would actually be involved in other ventures are now also coming into fishing. There is quasi-nomadic nature of fishing, as I've indicated, means that in my constituency, virtually every person from every part of Nyanza is in my constituency. From Migori, from Siaya, from wherever. My constituency is rural but very cosmopolitan because of fishing and the quasi-nomadic nature. Then there are also transboundary conflicts that you heard our party leader, Honorable Buru, was raising with the Ugandan president when he came here, that our fishermen are harassed by Ugandan fisherfolk and by the Ugandan security. And when they are harassed, sometimes they are forced to take or eat raw fish when they are arrested. And sometimes and the issue is because we don't have clear boundaries. Kenya and Uganda have set up that in the past. We have not sorted it out. And when we don't sort out the issue of boundaries, we end up fighting over waters, not actually over the land, like Migingo. People don't fight over Migingo, they fight over the waters. So sometimes people say, we are not interested in the waters, we are interested in the fish. But the fishermen will follow the fish wherever the fish goes. Sometimes the fish takes them up to Uganda. It calls for cooperation between Kenya and Uganda, which I'm not seeing emphasized in this bill. That there is actually a convention, an East African convention, that calls for setting up committees. I don't see that set up very strongly in this bill. Then, of course, there's the issue of environmental degradation, and we can see the water hyacinth and other systems, other things that have now invaded the lake and are causing the dwindling of stock of fish. There's weak governance and institutional structures, including bribery. Mr. Speaker, I've shared here on the floor that one time I was actually in Rusinga Island Lodge when we saw commotion in Litare Beach, which is the biggest beach in Rusinga Island. Fortunately, I was there, so I sent my security team to go and find out. And we were told that our people, our fishermen, had been arrested by Ugandans. And when I went there, the public, fortunately, effected a citizen's arrest. And when we reached, they were not actually Ugandan security. They were Kenyan police masquerading as Ugandan security. And they were taking money from the local people. They were almost lynched if had not intervened. So there is also corruption, there's harassment of fishermen. All those things need to be here as well. And then, of course, there's the issue of gender inequality and social dynamics, where women actually are involved in post-capture processing. And because of that, unless they pay money or they pay with their body, they are not able to get. And so there must be very, very express provision. I think sometimes when the committee that was dealing with this had me speaking to this, they just think because I speak a lot about gender issues. No, women are really mistreated in the fishing sector. And then, of course, there's the issue of illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, or what is called IUU. And Kenya has actually ratified some of the convention. Last week I was with the parliamentarians for global action in Mexico, where we were actually looking at that treaty that Kenya has also ratified. And what it talks about is, on the one hand, we must make sure that we protect our natural resources, our marine resources, our aquatic resources, but not at the expense of local livelihoods. And therefore, this bill, and I'm glad if you actually look at the long title, it protects the livelihoods of fisherfolk while also looking at the issues of management and pollution. And so there are some that I'm glad. The issue that we are provided, the issue of inequity in licensing, where you find that both of, like our counties, they focus very heavily on the bigger industrial setups, the bigger people who are doing fish caging and all that. What about our locals? There's one practice that I'm still looking at the law, and Mr. Speaker, because you are a younger lawyer, you probably might be better placed to do this. The issue where these investors come, they lease land, but they lease them at such throwaway prices. You find that somebody is given 200,000 Kenya shillings. This is a person who has never held 5,000 Kenya shillings in his life. But is given 200,000 to lease their land for 20 years, Mr. Speaker. If you reduce that 200,000, how much does it become? Mr. Speaker, those are things that must be here. We want investors, we welcome investors, but we don't want them to exploit our local fishermen. We must protect our fishermen, and we must make sure that even when we are expanding fishing, it's for the benefit of artisanal fishers, not just for people who are coming outside to make money. We want partnerships, not only building schools and all that. We want partnerships that will help our communities and change our livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, I see my time is up.
No, but Honorable Millie, how much more time do you need?
Maybe just 2 minutes to wind up.
No, will the 2 minutes enable you also to touch something on the exclusive economic zone? Because I've heard you speak a lot to fisheries in inland waters.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I can actually talk about exclusive economic zones. And Mr. Speaker actually went and we met with a group of experts and investors from out of the country who are introduced to Homa Bay County. And they wanted to introduce concepts of fishing that would ensure that our fishermen actually get cheap boats and fishing gear at cheaper prices. And so I want to thank the Homa Bay County through the Governor Gladys Wanga that they were willing to partner. I will follow up. I don't know how far they have gone. I introduced them to the county. And when you have those exclusive economic zones, one, I can tell you right now, if you are to do a boat, because our constituency, CDF has actually been doing that, when you do one simple boat, it costs about 1.3 million Kenya shillings. And if you are to do that in my constituency, you have 64 beaches. If you are to do that for 64 beaches, you are not building any other classrooms, because then they come as security boats. But when you have exclusive economic zones, it will help in very many things, both processing, fingerlings, and all that, especially when you are dealing with bigger capture and when we are talking about commercialized fishing. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that I wanted to talk about is also that we have a lot of fights over rich areas for fishing, because of course now there is depletion. When people run out of this, you find, for instance, that fishing, many people don't understand, but we have people who fish in the day, people who fish in the night. So the people who fish in the day leave their, they go and leave their nets and everything in the lake. The ones who come in the night, they take advantage, because you have the mbuta and omena fishers and tilapia fishers. They operate very differently. And so there's a lot of conflict. And I'm always called upon to have meetings, and that is part of the reason that I've become an expert, because then I've been forced to learn, to understand actually the challenges that the fisher folk go through. And above that, one of the things that we need to look at, Mr. Speaker, is protection of the fishermen themselves. That sometimes when I'm late, I'm coming from Fangano, Takawiri, or Remba Islands, and I'm coming back to the mainland, and it's extremely stormy that you actually think you're about to capsize. By then, my father died in a boat accident, so there are real concerns. And you are worried that you actually have, that stormy waters. You will find omena fishers and tilapia fishers, they operate very differently.